Rev up your engines!
Mike Echo says, I bought a used electric car, a Nissan Leaf, but I'm worried about possible big repair costs. I bought a Nissan Leaf. It only had 25,000 kilometers on the clock. Well, that's not very many miles. And I bought it for $5,000, and now they're worth about $9,000 on the market. I'm worried about repair costs. That could be half of the car's price for either the battery or any of the charging modules. Well, yeah, you're gambling with the used electric car. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. But now you only got, what, 25,000 kilometers? It's like, what, 14,000 miles or something? That's nothing. I had a customer with a Nissan Leaf, had 100,000 miles in Houston, never any problems yet. For the price you paid and for what it's worth today, what the heck? Drive the thing around. It might last for quite some time. With, 125,000 miles on it, yeah, then you got to start worrying, this is going to break, that's going to break. But they're relatively well made enough in a short distance like that to get a used one can be very smart. See, a lot of people buy electric cars because they don't go far. So if you get a used one, it might not have that many miles, and they'll still have quite a bit of life on it. I personally have never seen any of them break before they had well over 100,000 miles, and the Priuses generally until they get 180, 200,000 miles or more. So if you can get it cheap enough like that used, because price the new ones, they're outrageously expensive. I read an article the other day, they said, well, Hertz is getting all these electric cars, and they have better resale values than gasoline cars. That's a load of bunk. They have horrible resale values. I saw a guy buy a 15,000 mile Tesla Model S. It was 125 new. He bought it for 45 grand with 15,000 miles. They have horrible resale value. You can take advantage of it if they're low mileage. That guy bought that Tesla. It only had 15,000 miles. It's got tons of life left in it, right? But in the long run, you got to worry about price. But for what you paid for the vehicle, what the heck? Drive it around. Hardly has any mileage on it at all. Carlos 888 says, guys advised me to switch from mineral-based automatic transmission fluid to synthetic automatic transmission fluid. 2011 Isuzu. The transmission uses Dextron 3 fluid. Somebody advised me to change it to synthetic fluid. No, it was made for that one fluid. You change it to synthetic fluid, transmission might start slipping. A transmission's designed for one fluid. Do not put another fluid in it. That would be a big mistake. I wouldn't even think about doing that. Leave it alone. Your friend doesn't know what he's talking about. Don't switch. Leave it the way it is, because you can't change it all out to begin with. You'd have to drop the transmission, take the torque converter off. It would cost a fortune. So if you just drain and fill, some of it would be the Dextron, some of it would be the synthetic. Who knows what kind of a ramification would have being mixed inside. Leave it alone. Just change the fluid and filter and use the Dextron. Leave it at that. Now, when the new ones come with synthetic fluid, yes, use synthetic and only synthetic. I wouldn't even change brands. I'd buy whatever brand it came with. Who knows what additives are different in each brand. But I certainly would not go from Dextron 3 to full synthetic fluid. Chris Miller says, I bought a 2004 Honda CR-V with 140,000 miles. It keeps getting misfire for cylinder number 1. I switched the spark plugs from 1 to 2, and it still has number 1. What can I do? I plan on driving at 1,300 miles. All right, well, you want to fix it before you drive 1,300 miles. Now, you just change the spark plug. Rarely do the spark plugs go out. What you want to do is change the ignition coils around, put 1 on 2 and 2 on 1, and if it moves, then you got a bad ignition coil, right? Now, if it's not that, change the number 1 fuel injector with the number 2 fuel injector. Switch them. And if the wrist moves, the fuel injector's bad. Now, if it's not that, then unfortunately, you probably either got a problem in a number 1 cylinder, piston rings, valve, something's wrong, or you got a problem in the computer system that fires the ignitions and flashes the fuel injectors, which is very complex and hard to figure out. You're going to need a mechanic for that. But a lot of times it's just the coils or the fuel injectors, and you can swap them too and see if the misfire moves. If it moves, great, that's a bad part. Always try the simple things first. That's the best way to go. Ricky Narana says, does this stuff really work? Big fan from India. There is a cleaner called Nulon Oil Treatment. Does it work? I've been using it. I think it does. But half the people say it's the best thing since sliced bread, and other people say, hey, it's a bunch of baloney. It doesn't do anything on any other oil additive. Well, what do you think? Well, I've never tried the Nulon, but there are so many scam oil additives out there. When I was in Houston, there was one that rolled through every year or two, and they'd go down to Galveston and they'd film ads on the beach showing how the cars are running great, blah, 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 blah. They just spent a bunch of money advertising snake oil that didn't do anything at all. I tried this stuff out and it didn't work. You generally don't need an additive. If you got an old junker that's all clogged up, yeah, that ATS oil cleaner really works well, and the fuel injector cleaner works well too. You normally don't need it, but if your car's car's all clogged up, you bought a junker from somebody else, you want to make it last longer, yeah. But normally, you don't need to put any additives in your engine oil or in your gasoline. They work fine the way they're made. I would kind of assume it's probably more of a snake oil, because if you see half the people say it's the best thing since sliced bread, they work for the company or they're selling stuff, and the other half say this is just snake oil, I would more or less listen to the snake oil people. If you got that many people saying that, it's like when I go to Amazon, if I read a product review and it's got all these glowing ones that aren't written in very good English, and it's obvious that somebody in China where they're made has put these fake reviews, but then there's 8 or 10 ones that say this crap I ever bought, it didn't work, it wasted, they didn't give me my money back, the product didn't work, I would believe the people that complain because they're out to say, hey, there's a problem, where the other ones, it could easily be fake reviews. Now it says, how can I waterproof my window switches and buttons? I bought a Volkswagen Polo 2005 with 62,000 miles. Started raining, the back seats got water, it had holes for drainage. I fixed that, but the window switches don't work. How can I make them waterproof? You're not supposed to get water in the first place. The Volkswagen are cheaply made as they age, they leak and get water in them. You can't, they're switches. You know, they're open to the air. You can't really waterproof. I mean, if you were crazy enough, you wanted to make some kind of a plastic cover that was flexible, then yeah, the top would be waterproof, but you still get water into doors. Understand, doors, they all get water in them. That's why they have holes in the bottom to drain out. Now, if you take the door panels off, and if you see that all that plastic is gone, you could get a new plastic piece and tape it on, and that keeps the water in the door from getting to the switch part. It would only be on the inside. It wouldn't go through the panel and get on the switch. You could do that, but Volkswagens basically have cheap switches, and as they age, they just break on their own anyway. They're not that well-made switches. Everything's plastic crap. I've had customers with Volkswagens that go through 3 or 4 of them if they keep the car for 8 or 10 years because they're just cheaply made. Waterproofing isn't what you really have to worry about. They're just made cheaply. I've seen Toyotas that leaked all over the place because they'd been in wrecks and the switches still worked on. But you could try different parts of plastic and try to seal it that way. Well, here's one you have to see to believe. Neiman Marcus is selling a Hummer EV for Christmas. If you've got, the Christmas spirit and you want to give somebody an electric Hummer EV, but it starts at $285,000. Man, Neiman Marcus, they always did stuff. It was always big in Texas, especially in Dallas and Houston, right? Brought back the Ford Thunderbird. Remember, it was a massive failure with the stupid V6 engine, and people ended up suing them for some stuff because the cars never came. Ford promised they were going to make them in time, but they didn't because they built them wrong. Then the ones that got it, electronic failure. Well, here's a completely electronic car, and they want $285,000 for it. Made just for Neiman Marcus. Ooh. If you buy this one, you also get an exclusive seat and VIP access. Jackson, Barrett Jackson Auctions, in Scottsdale, Arizona in 2022. Ooh, you get seats to go to an auction, too, for $285,000. $285,000 for an electric Hummer. Well, I can think of better things to do with my money, but, it's a one-off deal. It's basically saying, you'll be the only one to have this exclusive Neiman Marcus Hummer, at $285,000. What's that? Maybe a couple of days income from your oil well you got, I'm sure somebody in Texas will probably end up buying a thing. But me, $285,000 for a Hummer, a little on the pricey side here. And it is a brand new electric vehicle. They haven't made them yet. Who knows? It might end up exactly like when Neiman Marcus was selling those Thunderbirds. They were all disaster areas. The cars weren't made right. The line failed. Maybe it'd get bad karma that they're selling them through Neiman Marcus. It might be the same thing. That's the problems Ford had with theirs. Hey, sometimes people should learn from the past. A lot of people don't. That Thunderbird deal didn't work out too good. Maybe we shouldn't mess with these cars anymore. Check out this QT van. It's the world's smallest RV, and you can even tow it with a bicycle. Some people say bigger is better. Well, in this case, some people think smaller is better. It's called the QT van. It's made in England. Would you know, the English should have something you could tow with a bicycle. It is the world's smallest, but still road legal trailer you can pull. Now, it started with the idea, all the Brits wanted to see Prince William and Kate Middleton get married, and there's no room or anything. People made this so that the average English guy could bring this thing. The weather stinks in England, so you'll have a little place you can stay in while you're going there. You don't have to worry about renting an expensive hotel room. So the UK-based Environmental Transport Association, ETA, came up with this thing. You can have with a bicycle or an electric scooter or even a little scooter. You can tow it with you. Now, it started at about $7,500, and they started a new thing that they called glamping instead of camping. This thing's so small, you could take it on sidewalks. You could take it on the cycle path. So when you're cycling along, it's legal to use it on a cycle path. And you can either hook it up to 240 volts, or it had a battery with an estimated range of 30 miles. Now, maximum speed was only 5 miles an hour. So you're not speeding along. That's why I said bicycle paths, right? It is a 19-inch wall-mounted TV inside, hence the battery power, a kettle, a mini bar, and a one-person full-size bed. You can even put solar panels to satellite dish as an option. Guinness World Book of Records calls it the tiniest trailer in the world. So, you're looking for a tiny trailer? Here you go. You might want to go more than 5 miles an hour. That wouldn't really cut the mustard here in America, unless it was strictly for people who are bicycling. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.